All right, so you want to buy a house in San Diego? Well, let's make sure you don't buy a lemon. Here to discuss this with us today, Alan Kinzel is here. How you doing, buddy?
Thanks, Derrick. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. Really appreciate your time. So, when you buy a home in San Diego, right, very unlikely you're buying a brand new home.
Yeah, very unlikely.
Very unlikely.
Right.
So you got to check it out.
So the problem with that, too, it's a great point you make, because a lot of people think they're buying a home or a new condition. It's a used home. And over time, codes have changed, materials have changed. We're using materials we didn't use 20 years ago because we know they're better now and they're more available now. But also, repairs over the years have been done by sellers. And they might not have done them with permits, they might have done additions, they might have done all kinds of things, and not even got permits, may have done them to workmanlike expectations, but may have not.
Yeah.
So you really got to go with that expectations, the proper expectations. You're not buying a new home, but are you buying a home that's good for you?
Yeah.
And you got to go with your eyes wide open. That's the key.
Eyes wide open. That's the title here. Eyes
Exactly.
wide open. So I always tell, when someone gets into escrow, as a lender, I say, hey, listen, here's what's happening.
Right.
I'm going to be working on your rate lock now.
Right.
You've got an inspection. You've got an appraisal coming up. These are things you need to pay attention to. Be prepared for that inspection to show some stuff.
Absolutely.
Right? Like the inspectors are going there with a fine-tooth comb.
Right.
I mean, they're putting cameras, they're doing infrared scans, they're doing all kinds of stuff.
Right.
Which is good.
Right.
You want to see what's under the hood. That's why I tell them. You want to see
Absolutely. So you're going to go in there, you're going to find things wrong. No matter if it's a brand new house, you're going to find things wrong. That's their job. But the thing about it is, you're looking for health and safety issues, you're looking for structural issues, major issues that you need to address. And even if you can't get them addressed prior to closing, or just make sure you understand the useful life and what you have to be budgeting for, what things could go wrong, and just so you understand that when you're doing your inspections. Now, you made another really good point there, in that home inspectors are generalists, right? They're looking for everything. There's different experience bases with these home inspectors, but they're generalists. They're not electricians. They're not roofers, typically.
Yeah.
They're not these other people, but they're looking for things that show up on a radar that you might want to do follow-up inspections on. That's really one of my key points too, is if you see something you're uneasy with, just do a follow-up inspection with an expert who can tell you, based on their years of experience, if this is a problem or not, or what the cost of repair might look like.
So basically, your inspector is there to help point out things that you might want to further investigate.
Absolutely.
So if the inspector says, hey, looks like there might be some moisture, over here,
right,
potentially a roof leak, you get a roofer out there.
Get a roofer out there. They talk about electrical issues, have an electrician. Home inspectors they do misinformation sometimes because they hear things or they see things, but when you talk to an electrician, they're going to tell you, based on their years of experience, what exactly the issue is with that panel or what's going on with that. But there's certain inspections that are key from a larger cost standpoint,
right,
like structural.
Foundation.
Okay.
Things like that.
Foundation.
Crack slabs,
Absolutely. Crack slabs, roofs. Termites is a standard one that everybody should do, because termites can not only be costly to repair, but they may have done some significant damage over the time. But all this isn't really to make you alarmed or anything. It's just to make your expectations going into it to what they should be. There's things wrong with the house. What are they? So you can say, can we negotiate a request for repair?
Let's talk about those. Let's talk about severity. So is there anything, Alan, that you say is just a deal killer? Like, hey, if this exists, deal killer, don't even talk about it, move on from it. Is there anything that's on that list for you?
That's hard to say, because at any given price, or people can do any kind of repairs. Say the foundation is withering away. I mean, there's great companies out there that can go in and redo your foundation, and you have a foundation that may have been better than when it was originally laid.
Yeah.
Because of the new materials, because the concrete they used back in the day was significantly different than they do today in most parts of the country. Now, Florida had a little bit of different issue with the concrete they were using on that condo out there, but
yeah, that's a whole
it's
story.
It's a different
right?
kind of a different grade of concrete. But in San Diego here today, the building materials that we're using are they're pretty incredible.
Yeah. So what I'm reading from you is nothing is outside the realm of negotiation. So if there's a $50,000 foundation repair, you say, hey, let's see where the seller is at on it. Let's see if they're willing to give us the money or the time or whatever to make it happen.
Exactly. And that's another good point. Now, when you find something like that, Derrick, I really don't recommend that you ask the sellers to fix it. because the sellers have different ideas. They're different motivation. They want to keep the cost down as low as possible. They're not living in that house for the next 20, 30 years. They're not looking at it long term like that. So if in fact you are requesting a repair like that, I would request for a credit. And then go find the contractor you're comfortable with and use that credit to pay for it.
Yeah, and there's ways to do that too from a financing standpoint. I will just let everybody know, like there's certain instances where you will request a credit that's going to exceed your closing costs, that's going to exceed what you can actually credit within the loan. There is a way to essentially legitimately funnel that money to yourself through a debt that you may have on your credit report. So you can get credits in excess of your closing costs, just so everybody knows. It's not just, a lot of times people feel that they're limited to a certain amount of credits.
Right.
Because you do have to put money down if it's a down payment loan, or you can't get paid to buy a house if you're a VA buyer or whatever it may be. So, but there are ways to do that that are completely legitimate above board. So if you do have a big repair situation, like we had one that was like a $20,000 roof situation not that long ago, and they're actually able to get the credit from the seller, the buyers are happy about it because they're like, hey, get a brand new roof.
Right, exactly.
We don't have to worry about this for 30 years.
Better than buying any other house on the block that has a half-used roof, right? You got a brand new one.
Yeah, I mean, would you be happier if the roof was 10 years old and had half the half-life? So shelf life, I should say. So there's two different ways to look at it.
Right.
And a lot of things depend on, I think, people's understanding of it.
Right.
What the value is. So you're getting the house for the same net price.
Exactly.
But it has a brand new roof.
That's a good deal.
That's more valuable.
Now there are some things that I'd stay clear from.
Okay.
Say not necessarily like everything at a price you can mitigate, but it's your familiarity to make sure you go through all the process to mitigate. There's some drug houses, meth houses, things of that nature that could create some problems, but you can mitigate that at a cost.
Yeah.
But you raised that's some very good points you raised there.
Yeah. So I mean, so from those things, now there's always the little things.
Right.
You get your inspection report. The inspection report is usually like a binder. It's a huge report, lots of pictures, lots of descriptions. They check everything. They check every light switch. They check every drain. They check every toilet. That's what you want them to do. That's what you're paying the inspector to do. So you should be happy that they did that. You want to know what's under the hood. You want to feel comfortable with it. So a lot of times you put together a request for repairs. Hey, a lot of little things here, $1,000, $2,000, whatever. That happens all the time, and goes over pretty well. Usually the sellers are like, yeah, you know what, they're right. That stuff probably does need to be fixed, right? Or replaced. And then you get that credit, comes off your closing costs, and boom, you have the money to go, replace all those things.
Absolutely.
Buy the knobs that you want and get the toilet that you want or whatever. So those things are, I think, really no big deal. I would say it's MBD situation. So it's really the bigger things, the roofs, hey, the leaks, or hey, the plumbing. They have the old pipes versus the new pipes, or the electrical. Whoever did this electrical, what were they doing? And those are the ones that end up being bigger deals.
That's right. And so along those lines, so the tips that I would give you if you're going to go into a home inspection is, one, if you can all possible, look at the disclosures first. Before you do the home inspection, look at the disclosures to see if they did any painting recently, if there's any water issues, anything that's disclosed that you want to follow up with while you're at your inspection, and maybe even have the inspector point out to him and say, hey, can you take a look at this? Because that's been noted, it's been an issue in the past, because otherwise they have no idea. And then so the second tip I'd give you is actually show up at the home inspection, at least towards the end of it, because he can walk you through and show you the things he found. But while he's doing his inspection, you want to leave him alone. But you can walk to the house and look at the disclosure issues and look for paint discolorations and find out, why is that paint different than that paint? Was there a water leak or something that caused that? And then the third thing you can do is you can have your title company have them pull all the permits, or have your agent work with somebody to pull all the permits on the property so you can see the permit history on the property itself. So those will get you pretty far down the path. And then once you do your home inspection, if there's any follow-up inspections, there's all kinds that you can do. I mean, the one that's prevalent that I kind of recommend that most people do is a sewer line inspection if your house is over 30 years old. Because that could be a kind of a big ticket item, if you have a sewer line break or something like that go on. But you can do anything from solar panel inspections to, septic, if you got septic, obviously, but there's all kinds of HVAC. It's just a matter of, you don't need to do all that unless there's a reason to.
Yeah, and that's what the inspection's for,
exactly.
Is to help you figure out which of these things should we further investigate.
Exactly.
So let's flip this for a second, Alan. If I'm a seller, And I'm watching this video, I'm going, well, shoot, you know, I don't want to be caught in this situation. I haven't looked into all these things. I haven't had someone inspect this property
Right.
with a fine tooth comb, and I'm going to go ahead and get in contract, take my property off the market, and hand the reins over to a buyer.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on a pre-listing inspection?
I like it a lot. And you know, in Northern California, that's the customary way that they do it. They
right?
actually do the home inspections in advance, and they post them online, because the California contract is basically, it's an as-is contract. But you have your rights to do your inspections. I mean, after you do your inspections, you can ask for repairs or credits. But a seller does not have to, you know, agree to do anything. Of course, if they don't, you could walk away, or you can agree to do part of it. It's a negotiation. But in Northern California, oftentimes they'll do their pre-inspection so people can see when they're making their offer what kind of issues are with that property, and they can make it truly an as-is offer.
Mm.
You know, in that
I like
way,
that.
It is, and then that way the property's not off the market, to your point, and falling out potentially because, you know, something comes up that people aren't aware of.
Yeah, it's amazing that people don't do that a lot here in San Diego, but I know inspectors all over the place. The real estate inspection company, my buddy Philippe, who runs that company, they do a lot of them. It's really just sort of not allowing the buyer to take that advantage in the negotiation, because you have a few disadvantages as the seller, right? First of all, you have to go first.
Right.
You have to put the price out first, right? So you never want to go first in the negotiation, but as a seller, you have to.
Right.
You know, and so you have to go first, and then when you accept an offer, you have to kind of go off the market, and you have to go on the shelf,
Right.
you know, for a couple of weeks at least while due diligence is being done. Wouldn't it be nice to know ahead of time what all those things are, and to be able to say, you know what, they're probably going to want that fixed. That's definitely going to come up. Oh, we have a leak over there. Let's fix that ahead of time. Get all those things squared away so that when that buyer does their inspection, it's clean.
Right.
I mean, that's a real way to handle it, in my opinion.
You know, Derek, and you raise a very good point as far as certain buyers are more susceptible than others for a pre-inspection. So if you have first-time home buyers, for instance, and they're going in for their first home, they're going to have buyer's remorse right after they write the contract anyway. They're wondering if they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
They're wondering if they got the right house. And then they go to see the inspector, and the inspectors point out all these things, and they might be little, but it's a laundry list of things, and if they question themselves, am I doing the right thing? Do I have enough money to keep up with all this maintenance that's going to have to occur, or fix these stuff? So if you had a pre-inspection and fix some of that in advance, first-time home buyer's mind would be so much at ease, right?
Yeah.
It'd be so much at ease. Now, if you have somebody who's, you know, used to fixing up stuff all the time, they're not intimidated by an inspection like that. But most people in this market at certain price points are first-time home buyers, or don't have the experience to fix things up on their own.
Right.
So you raise a really good point. That would really serve that market well.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. As a seller in this market, you know, you're wanting to get top dollar.
Absolutely.
You know, people are paying up, and prices have gone up a lot, and you want to put the buyers at ease as much as you can. So if you could spend, you know, $500 on an inspection, maybe $1,000 or $2 on getting it really tidied up, so a lot of those little things don't show up on the inspection report.
Right.
I think it would be a worthwhile investment.
It'd let you sleep better at night, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're right, the contracts are written for the buyer. I mean, they could back out for any reason during the first 17 days, right?
Yeah.
But as a seller, you're locked in, even if you got to offer for more.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure once you come to agreement, that price, you're packing your truck, you're packing your boxes. You want to make sure that the transaction goes through.
That's right. Alan, thank you so much for coming in today, man. This has been a great conversation.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate your expertise.
I appreciate it.
Great to see you.
Thank you very much.
Share this with your friends. Let's help make them smarter than everyone else.